The second thing I discovered was that attempts to provoke fear tended to employ a certain kind of stereotypic and very intense language. For example, here's a quote on climate. We simply cannot afford to gamble by ignoring it. We cannot risk inaction. Those scientists who say we are merely entering a period of climate instability are acting irresponsibly. The indications are that our climate can soon change for the worse are too strong to be reasonably ignored. Familiar language, isn't it? But this is not actually about global warming. It's about global cooling. Fear of a new ice age. Is anybody here worried about an ice age? Is anybody upset that we didn't act now, back then, to stockpile food and all the other things we were warned that we had to do? Here's a quote from a famous computer study in the 1970s that predicted a dire future for mankind unless we act now. And just notice the language here. We're unanimously convinced that rapid, radical redressment of the present unbalanced and dangerously deteriorating world situation is the primary task facing mankind. Concerted international measures and joint long-term planning will be necessary on a scale and scope without precedent. This supreme effort is founded on a basic change of values and goals at individual, national, and world levels. Very heavy stuff. Here's Paul Ehrlich talking about what he thinks we're going to have to do. He's talking about population. As you know, he favored voluntary controls, but if voluntary controls didn't work, he favored coercive controls. He said the operation will demand many apparently brutal and heartless decisions. The pain may be intense, but the disease is so far advanced that only with radical surgery does the patient have a chance of survival. Here's the UN. This is about Y2K. History offers no example of a parallel threat on a global, national, or local scale. To wait and see invites disaster. A worldwide strategic mobilization similar to the effort required by World War II must be developed in the weeks ahead. Now, nearly everybody's forgotten about Y2K, so let me remind you of what was predicted 6 years ago. Here's one author who said he was assuming at least a 12-month disruption of basic goods and services, including no electrical power, no clean water, no telecommunications, shortages of food, gas, clothing, and retail goods, bank failures, inaccessibility of funds, stock market crash, dramatic drop in real estate prices, we're still waiting for that, economic depression, unemployment, civil unrest, including protests, riots, and general lawlessness. This is actually one of the milder predictions. Here's another prediction that simply pointed to a meltdown of civilization as we know it. Can't get any stronger than that. But what actually happened? Essentially nothing. And the UN was pleased. During the first months of the new century, only minor problems were reported. The governments can congratulate themselves for passing the Y2K challenge.
Yeah.
Now, there's only one problem. The governments didn't really have anything to do with it. And you may think, well, wait a minute, Y2K was a real problem, and the concerns, even if they were exaggerated, nevertheless mobilized people and led them to success. This is a common but entirely erroneous